I have strict rules right now that Daniel just needs to keep his mouth shut because I'm on a mission to complete what I need to say before he interrupts me. So if he interrupts me, I'm just going to keep going. So, Daniel, be quiet. Let me just get through this one time. Every week you get me. Okay. So, we spend so much time preparing for conversations. You should see the look on his face. It's really funny. He's going to do something. We spend so much time preparing for conversations, fights, moments that may never happen. But how often do we stop and realize we're narrating a version of life that we are not even living? Welcome to Unfuck Your Mind, where the conversations are real and the language is uncensored and the perspectives are unapologetically ours. Stop looking at your watch. Some of our episodes might ruffle a few feathers, and that's okay. We are not here to preach or convert. We are just sharing our own messy, honest experiences in hopes that it helps someone else feel a little less alone. What y'all can't see if you're not watching on YouTube is Mr. Daniel over there checking his watch every literal 1.5 seconds and yawning. So thank you for your support, Daniel. I appreciate you. Anyways, take what resonates with you and leave what doesn't. And remember, your journey is yours. And we respect that, though we request the same in return. If you tuned in last week, I had shared that our season one, I shared random interesting facts about different cultures and things like that in different states. And a lot of people said that they really missed that. And I thought, what else can we talk about that's interesting and funny? So I came up with like human habits and things about the human body that are just interesting. And I just did this the other day. So I thought, oh, we're going to cover this one today. The hypnic jerks. It's like when you suddenly you're just relaxing and your body just freaking flies like you're going to die. Like you're jumping off a cliff. So they are called hypnic jerks, which I did not know. Some scientists think it's an evolutionary leftover from when our ancestors slept in trees, which is interesting. It's a sudden muscle twitch that would wake them up if they started to fall. So literally your brain actually thinks you're dying. And that's like that's its way of being like, whoa, whoa, we're falling. Like, I need to fucking save myself here. So let me see. They feel, like when you do it, it kind of feels like you literally jump to the ceiling. They really feel 400% more dramatic than they actually look. It does feel like, like we launch ourselves in the air, but we're really not. Somebody else that's watching us kind of just looks like a flinch. And it kind of is worse when you're next to someone. So, anyways, I just thought I'd share that. I think it's kind of fascinating but frustrating because it feels so real and it's that sudden jerk of like, holy fuck, I'm dying. Oh wait, I'm just falling asleep.
I get that sometimes, like with my arm will like jerk, like if I'm like half asleep, half awake, it'll jerk, or my legs. I've noticed that with. It's funny because I did that actually last night, this morning, sometime, whenever it was. I don't remember exactly what, but kind of my arm jerked, like I was grabbing something, or maybe putting my hand down, like I was trying to catch myself from falling or something. It was kind of weird, but yeah, good timing.
I had one of those really, really intense full body ones the other day where my whole like, man, it felt like I was having a seizure or something. So, with that said, this week we are discussing the mental drama in your head. So, is your mind helping you to rehearse life or is it stopping you from living it? So, we're going to talk about all all of the stories that we make up in our head. And it's interesting because, like when you go through a divorce, you have a lot of court dates and depending on this and that. So I've noticed since then, with every little decision I make, because I was in court so much for my past divorce, I always have myself in the witness stand. I'm like, why am I having myself in the witness stand? I didn't even do anything wrong. But what if this and what if that? And I was sharing this with a girlfriend who's she's significantly younger than me. She's 24. She's like, yeah, with
Yeah,
everything at work and
significantly
was
younger
afraid
than
she she is, shut up.
like way younger than you,
Yeah, yeah, way younger.
like
Thanks,
three
Danielle,
times
for
younger than you.
physically, but I mean, in my heart, I'm really young yet. So, anyways, she's like, I always have myself going to jail. Like with whatever I do, I'm going to jail. I'm like, we need to do a podcast on this. So here we are. And we're going to talk about, but to be fair, like I I'm kind of interested in your take on this because I know women are pros at this stuff. Women are just literally pros at scenarios and in working through things. Like kind of lost for words. I just know that we do it. And I know it's a self protection thing for most women. And I'm wondering from a man's perspective, like, is this something men often do? I know you're a little unique compared to most men, but no, just kidding.
Hope that's a compliment.
No, actually, it kind of is. I'm just being sassy about it.
Of course.
Like, I always say, like, if I was a man, like, here we go, looking at him right now. It would be like you're me in a male version.
Heard.
So I think you're a male. I don't know. Did you didn't do any crazy surgeries? And it's not a judgment call. I'm just literally asking because I don't know your history.
It's none of your business.
Okay, I'll take it.
No,
No,
actually,
not a
as
judgment call.
men, yeah, we do very much do this. And I think everybody is as a whole does this, but for us, I think it's more. Um, we, I saw this meme one. I saw this meme one time that was hilarious. Okay, and it's a little crude, but it's funny anyway. So we're all adults. It's fine. But uh, but the basic thing was, and it's kind of a man thing, right? But we're like, we're always worried that when we're in the shower, that somebody's going to break in. And this is a real thing for men, like men really, but this is how we think that we're going to be in the shower and somebody's going to break in and we're going to have to fight somebody with our wiener out. I saw this meme and it was like, I've done that. Oh my God. I've just, and
I wonder.
but yeah, what is wrong? This camera pisses me off. Anyway, but yeah, this whole thing of like the kind of made up scenarios is a very real thing. I think it's different with different people and even different genders, but yeah, it's very much a real thing. And
Okay.
the interesting thing about this, the most interesting thing is that the mind does not know the difference between imagination and reality. And the issue with that becomes is when you are constantly imagining situations that what you mentioned your friend there about going to jail. When you constantly imagine situations that are negative in nature, it it emotionally charges your body to anticipate that
Mm-hmm.
event actually happening because your mind doesn't know that it's not.
Well, it
So
adapts to those feelings, and then your body
yes,
owns those feelings.
so the emotion comes right back up and it becomes an anchor, which is a problem
Mm-hmm.
because then what happens is, well, okay, for instance, like a song, a song that you heard years and years ago, and it reminds you of a good moment in your life or even a bad moment. And as soon as you hear that song, you feel the emotions start to come up from something that happened 20 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you feel those emotions come up because that event is anchored to that song. So the emotions come up as though, again, in your imagination. We call it the memory, but it's represented a lot of the same way. But it comes up and all the emotions come with it. And even though the event, you've already lived the event and it's gone, the emotions come back as though it's actually happening now. That's called an anchor. And when you anchor that same thought pattern, even in the future, this is where anxiety is born in. Anxiety, feelings of anxiety, overwhelm, those kind of things, they get their anchor to that made up scenario. And a lot of people
I
start
think
dealing with anxiety because of that.
I think it's really important to note that people with a history of trauma definitely probably have a lot more negative anchors, even silly ones. I remember being at Christmas with my ex family when I was like, say 19 or 20. I was really obviously I was a lot younger and my ex at that time he got these work pants for the farm for really cheap from a different company. They would like sell it to him secondhand. And we called them El Cheapos. Just that's just what we called him because he got them so cheap. And he got some from his parents at Christmas, only I don't think they were like secondhand. I think they were actually brand new ones, but I didn't catch that. And he opened them and the words flew out of my mouth. Oh my gosh, they're El Cheapos. Well, they didn't know the history behind it. And I seriously don't remember what actually happened, but I remember instantly feeling bad. And it still comes up once in a while. And I'm like, Jamie, this is such a silly thing. Like, I wasn't trying to insult them, but something in my system felt like, oh my gosh, I just insulted them because I called them El Cheapos. And clearly, those weren't the actual El Cheapo ones, they were the real ones. But these little tiny things that resurface that have they probably don't even, no one else probably remembers anything about it. But here I sit at 49 and it has resurfaced again. And for what? Like, so I like really get curious. Like, I really want to invite the audience to just be like, how often do I do this? And recognize you are not alone. I just shared the most ridiculous anchor that I have. I mean, what? Who holds on to that shit?
Well, that's even like putting yourself out there like on social media and stuff. A lot of that is the same thing because a lot of times people that kind of get have this kind of aversion to making posts about them or videos or even written posts and things like that, especially about vulnerable things or things they just want to say, is oftentimes has that negative anchor to this happened one time when I was in school and everybody made fun of me and this, that, and the other. You know, it's the same idea that this happened one time, so it's going to happen again. And it causes, even like you were saying, those that negative anchor are still causing from the past 20, 30 years ago, whatever. For you it's probably like 50 years ago. But anyway, um sorry.
Don't
cheap
tell
cheap
anyone.
cheap shot.
Nobody's
Anyway.
supposed to know.
No, but like, we often our current behaviors are based on a experience in our past that got very much anchored to our present reality or behaviors for our present reality. And so we kind of avoid those things. And I've been as guilty of that as anybody. of having one thing after another, and then it's like, oh, I would do this, but this might happen. And of course,
Mhm.
once I started learning hypnosis and NLP and things like that, how the mind works, I started tracing that stuff back to the initial event. It was like, oh, this is interesting. This is why I do this, or this is why I make this decision, or this is why I pull back, or this is why, I say this or do this, or whatever the case may be. Right. Um, but yeah, it's because again, the mind takes that and it's like, oh, well, if you do this, then this will happen. It's a part of the imagination. it's like
Yeah.
it's like it's like the mind just imagines that happening again. And so
Well, it wants to keep you
there's
safe from,
yeah.
you know, yeah.
And
It
so
wants to just,
there's those kind of behaviors that are like, no, we have to avoid this at all costs.
yeah.
And it's such an interesting, well, and you say that like, and it really is. It's the mind trying to be efficient and keeping us safe. However, it's generally not productive in that sense because
Right.
here's the thing about life: safety. It's going to sound really crazy, but I'm going to say anyway. Safety should not be the number one priority because to think about life is none of us are going to get out of it alive.
Well, I feel like though we can create a sense of safety within ourselves, like trusting and knowing that we can trust ourselves, like to speak or to act upon this thing, and however the outcome is okay, because either it's really going to be okay, or we're going to learn a lesson, or it's going to be productive. But when we
Well,
have that sense of safety within ourself, we trust ourself, yeah, then we can let go of that false sense of safety in the outer world, if that makes sense.
yeah, and I would actually say it this way instead: is that a level of self trust. And here's the
Yeah.
thing that I'm going to say: you have to be okay with criticism, and you have to be okay with just doing it wrong because there's, there's none of us going to do it always right. I had this thing; it's called perfectionism, and I was just eat up with it for years and years and years. I was just eat up with perfectionism because I thought, well, the more perfect I am, the more lovable and valuable that I am. And let me just let everybody know a secret. That is such a crock of shit. It's absolute utter nonsense because you can do everything quote unquote right. Somebody's going to find something wrong. And so, with the safety idea, like, I'm not talking about like physical safety, don't go driving down the interstate, 150 miles an hour. Okay, I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking, mentally trying to keep yourself from ever being criticized or nobody ever having any problem with you. Because if you're going to do that, you're not going to go very far because life is just not about that. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that those imagined scenarios often are rooted in how other people will respond or think of us.
Yeah.
I
Just,
mean, really, when you think about that,
yeah.
it's not an internal thing. It's about the response that we got. That we, you know what I mean? Like, if that makes sense. Like,
It does.
like in the sense of like, well, like you saying to your friend there about going to jail. Has this, fear about going to jail, right? Well, that's including like something that's going to happen, or it's going to happen that she's going to have no control over from somebody else. You know what I mean? And but anyway, yeah, it's trying not to get too off track here because I can
I
feel
mean,
myself want to go in a million directions. But
Yeah, so we've talked a lot about the harmful aspects of allowing the drama in your head. I mean, it's replaying those negative thoughts over and over, anchoring to something negative, and, creating those worst case scenarios and that perfectionism. But, the truth is, there are times when it is beneficial. Like, you know what I wonder? Like, if everyone would stop and at least cut back on just at least 50% of the negative drama in their head that's not real, how much more energy would we have? Whoa. I know I would have a lot more, but I've gotten a lot better with catching it since I've been a hypnotist. But that's the key though, is like pause, reflect. All of a sudden an hour has gone by and there's this whole made up story that has nothing to do with real life. And what has it gotten me? Anxiety, concern, worry. Like for what? So that's when like you bringing yourself back to the outside world, like coming back out here instead of being stuck in your head is beneficial. But when you're preparing for something like a speech, something important in life, or like manifesting, knowing your dreams and your desires, what if you catch that negative drama in your head and you flip it into something good? Ask yourself, like, hey, how can I flip this script and really step into a place of using these thoughts in a positive way that will benefit me? Because we don't, like we were talking before, we don't have to constantly be worried about safety. If you have that self-trust, I mean, to me, the self-trust and the inner safety are the same thing. um because if you trust yourself and you know you can handle it, then the safety naturally comes and you're fine. But yeah, so let me see. Yeah, so emotional processing, perspective building, creativity, problem solving. How many times, like, if you have like, I love doing this with my business. I have something I want to create, and then I just allow myself to get lost in the building process of it and get really creative. It's like so rewarding. And then everything inside me lights up instead of thinking about the El Cheapos. And then boom, there you have it. Like, I remember I was writing an email. This was probably a good month ago. I was like, oh my gosh, what else can I add to this email that would really give value to the people that read it? Just on the spot, I recorded an impromptu hypnosis audio that was like 7 minutes long and added it in there. All because I allowed myself to get lost in the creative aspect of things instead of the negativity. So, I mean, that's a good way to rewire your brain. That's a really good way to like bring the positive side into things instead of so focused on the negative side. And I know Daniel's really good at that because all of a sudden he'll be like, I created this thing. You want to see? You're like, hell yeah.
Well, this is one of the things that I've because I again that's I mean I was just a dumpster fire most of my life emotionally and mentally and all the things. So um absolute shit show. So I can tell you from firsthand knowledge about what works because I've tried on myself.
Right.
um but so for me, always imagining the negative was just my way of life. It was always preventative measures. I was always on the defense. My life was very spent, 99% of my time was spent defensive thinking instead of being offensive, like creativity and the like. It was again more about avoiding the problem instead of walking into the solution. So one of the ways that I learned to kind of stop doing that was when those things started coming up. It takes a certain level of self-awareness, and there's obviously hypnosis and a lot of the things involved, but the things that I can tell you now is that I practice a lot more and this is something I think is so undervalued, even in our space, because we're either future or past. It's either regression, regress to cause, or it's future pacing and hypnosis.
I
Like that,
love where you're going with this.
like a lot of I know, right? And a lot of that time is spent there. And look, I'm not invalidating that at all, but one of the things that I've noticed is that just coming to the moment of now,
Mm-hmm.
and the easiest way that I found to, and the most productive way I found to do this, or efficient way to do this, is by focusing on your breath. And that is because you can't breathe breath from the past and you can't breathe breath from the future. You can only breathe in the moment of right now. Every breath you take is in the moment of right now. And so if you've noticed, start taking notice of how those thoughts come up, the negative thoughts, the negative imagination. If you just take a moment and just focus on your breath, literally just that's it. Just focus on your breathing. And it grounds you to the moment of right now. And then this is a question that I'll throw in there a lot is, what if it actually turns out better than what I think?
Mm-hmm.
What if this actually does happen? And what if I get what I want? And that generally, what just that process of focusing on the moment of now, starting those questions, because your mind is created, you're wired to answer any questions that you ask of yourself. Just how your mind is just made, right? So when I ask that question, well, what if it turns out better than what I think? What if I actually get what I want? That usually leads me down this whole trail of like, okay, what is it that I want? And how will I get there? And what is the next step? And there's just this whole, kind of a snowball. I know that's oftentimes used in a negative way, but there's this whole snowball effect of like the snowball rolling downhill and just gets bigger and bigger. And you talked about that, about the creativity thing. I know that one of the most recent things that I talked, share with you that I created was the custom GPT that I created, like for writing short hypnosis audios for like our short hypnosis scripts for social media. But the way that started out was that I saw somebody else who had created something similar. I didn't even know that was a thing.
I didn't know it was a
And
thing until you shared it with me.
I didn't know it was a thing until he shared it with me, or until I actually saw him talking about it. It was Kev Webster, one of our, our
Oh,
recent
really?
guests. Yeah, yeah. He's the first one I ever seen do that. I didn't know that was even a thing. And so when I actually saw that, I thought my first thought was, what if I created something like that for that only writes scripts short enough for hypnosis or for social media posts, because there's a time limit on like
Yeah.
reels and TikTok and all this sort of stuff. So that's how that started. Was, what if I could create this? And then from there, because when you learn, motivation is easy to get. I know a lot of people don't, you may not agree because they don't always feel that way. Motivation is easy to get. The little trick to that is when you have towards motivation instead of just away from motivation, it's a lot easier to kind of hit the goal, if you will. Because when you're
Well,
trying to avoid pain all the time, when you're just trying to avoid something, if you get far enough away from it, your mind just starts to forget about it. Versus being towards motivated, if you kind of have your eye on the prize, so to speak, if you catch that, then motivation is a lot easier to attain.
devil's advocate here. technically people are motivated to go into the negative aspect of it. All they have to do, like it takes work and effort to go down that negative trail. Just
Yeah.
take that motivation and shift it into the positive side. And the truth is you always have a
Well,
choice on what you want to think about.
but the negative that it's the same thing really, because the negative that you're talking about there is the avoidance of something, the avoidance of going to jail, or
Yeah.
the avoidance of saying a negative comment, like the El Cheapos, right? Or the avoidance of hurting somebody's feelings, or the avoidance of embarrassment or feeling like a failure. All that stuff is rooted in, let me avoid this thing happening or happening again, which is often the case,
Right.
versus let me look and see exactly what I can just make happen that's going to, again, work out for my benefit or whatever it is that I want.
Yeah, I think when you want to be present in the now, I'm really happy that you brought that up because that's my main focus for this year because I'm really reflecting on how fast life is going and has gone, literally. Raising my kids, my youngest is now going to be 18 in about a week, actually, ish. And that was the fastest dragging time I have ever experienced.
Happy birthday.
And I'm like, what?
So happy birthday to your youngest.
The 21st. She will be 18. So I have vowed to myself that I need to be more present in the moment and really try to turn off all that drama in the head, whether it's even good or bad, and look at what's really around me. When we were kids, we got lost in the simplest things. Like who was I sharing with the other day? I was blowing my bubbles. Like I blow bubbles almost every day. It's just fun. And you watch them. And as an adult, I'm like, what is the science behind this? Like all the colors that swirl in there. And like my mind went really deep. I'm like, wait a second, screw this. When I was a kid, I just blew bubbles and watched the bubbles float around. I didn't think about any depth of anything. Why do we always feel like we got to figure everything out as an adult? We don't. We can leave some things really super simple, like looking
Yeah.
at the weeds in the flower beds. It's just a weed.
Yeah.
Don't go any further than that. And really, I like to pay attention to what the weeds look like. And I don't know why I'm going here, probably because I know I need to go into my flower beds and pull a few weeds. But when we were young, we didn't think about a weed as a nuisance. It was just there. I don't know. There's so many things I think that
Right.
we could just keep going down these trails, but yeah, letting go of the drama in the head. Oh my gosh. My brain
Well,
is like, yeah, can we do that, please? I literally feel my brain like, yeah, let's let go of the drama in my head.
and that's, and I'll use this analogy, and I love this because I've taken a training here. I don't know, probably close to 2 years ago now. Um, but it was about creating hypnosis audios. Great training, by the way. Scott King, awesome dude. Um, but so I was taking this training, and he said something to me that, man, just lit me up. Or he said something in the training. Now he was just talking about creating the audios, and in the specific uh, thing that we're using, Audacity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you see, like, your voice is a wavelength, right? It's up and down, up and down, up and down. It's a wavelength, and that's, and he said something. He said, when you edit your audio, there's a keystroke that you put in. He said, that starts the edit process at zero, where in zero is basically, you have this zero line, and the wavelength is going up and down through that zero line all the time. And he said, you never want to edit an audio when it's not on the zero line, where it's not passing through the zero line. Because if you do, then it causes this little click or this little kind of a tick in the audio. You always want to hit the zero line. That's what the keystroke is for, is because you hit that certain keystroke and it automatically moves the editing process. It starts it at the zero line. I thought, holy crap, that's so amazing. Because life is full of ups and downs, right? Life is full of this up and down, ride. I mean, it is. Let's just be honest. Anybody that
It
tells you
is.
life, I can always be positive. They're full of shit. Um, okay.
Behind closed doors is
They're
another
probably trying to sell you
story.
something. Um, but no, but so for me, the whole grounding thing, the whole breath thing, focus on the moment of now, that is the zero line. The zero line is the moment of now. So if you're wanting to make any edits to your life, start on the zero line.
Good
Just focus
metaphor.
in the moment of now, whether
You
it's
nailed
negative or
that.
positive. Thank you. When he said that, I mean, again, he was somewhat off the audio, but man, I'm just like, oh my God, I know this is great. So, but it was like, I saw that and I thought, man, this is such a good metaphor for life. Whether you're ups or downs, like always take time, especially if you're going to do any quote unquote editing to your life, adjustment, calibrating, anything like that to your life changes. Get in the habit of focusing on the moment of now. Focus on your breath, focus on the moment of now. Pull yourself right back into the moment of now before you make any decisions, negative
Yeah,
or positive.
the moment of now is really powerful,
It
honestly.
is, very much is. And I think it's something that's not utilized as much in even in the context of hypnosis. Is because oftentimes, we're either living in the future or trying to deal with the past. And again, not invalidating that. There, definitely has its place.
Yeah.
But I think if you can get people to really focus on the moment of right now, even the negative stuff, it's like, again, the zero line, because it's hard to see the solution when you're in the shit. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
when
I
you're in the
mean,
middle of it,
that's valid.
well, really, it is. When you're in the middle of it, the emotions are high, things like that. It's hard to see a solution. It's, the analogy I've heard is it's hard to read the label from inside the jar. And so when you're in that, kind of just taking a minute, focusing on your breath, you might just notice how you make better decisions after that, because you can become more solution focused, or just focused in general, and then actually make maybe a better decision or more efficient or whatever you want to call that. But just focusing on the moment of now, it's just, I think it's just underutilized even in our profession.
Yeah. I mean, I do a lot of times I invite the client to be in this particular moment, but then somewhere along the line it goes to release the stuff from the past and, imagine the best outcome in the future or whatever it is. But being present in the moment of now is really essential. And I think it's important, really just close your eyes. And like Daniel said, like just take a moment and reflect on your thoughts. Like really step into that place of what do I really think about? You might not even be aware of all the drama in your head. I know there's so many times I never used to be aware of the drama in my head until I became a hypnotist and started all this self development work. And now I'll just close my eyes for a moment and I'll just imagine like physically picking up all the crap and setting it aside. I don't fight it. I say, thanks for stopping by. I know you are here to try to protect me, but I don't need that right now. I want to focus on something like this instead and just see how that works for you. Because I know for me, it's like a huge load off when I do that. I seriously just imagine picking these things up okay, this court situation can go over here. This thought about the El Cheapos can just go over here. You're not needed. I'm the only one on earth that remembers the damn story. I'm positive. There's no space for you in my head. But yeah, then see, like, even if you make up stories that are beautiful and positive, it still is going to rewire your brain to connect more of the positive side of life. I have trained myself through the years of reading a million hypnosis scripts and creating a bunch myself that I tend to naturally find some type of positive in every situation. And honestly, sometimes people are very annoyed by that. It's true. So it's kind of like, well, yeah, this is a pretty shitty thing. And we want to recognize it for that. But the truth is, let's find a lesson in here, but then focus on what can we get out of this? Because you can get something out of everything and learn a lesson or have a different mindset shift or find a different type of gratitude or whatever. It's and it feels so much better to go that direction than it does to like take that mud trail backwards and just be stuck in the quicksand and let it pull you down. That sucks. So, yeah. But I think the point is to catch yourself when you start to mentally do that narration, when you mentally have that trail that you're gonna go down that you can feel is not great. And then, and then you can ask yourself too, is this helping me or is this hurting me? And you always have the choice. I'm going to say it a million times because we forget we have choices. It's your thoughts, it's your head. You get to choose what you put in it, you get to choose what you allow in it. So always practice coming back to the present moment, come back to your breath, like Daniel said. It's a real thing. Like your breath is your life force. That's your life force. So maybe you want to add to that, like, okay, I was just in this negative place. Oh my gosh, this whole thing I just made up for the last half hour, but I caught myself. Celebrate that. That's a celebration if you catch it. And then as you breathe that breath of life in, give gratitude. Gratitude as you feel that breath of life come through you, and things will start to naturally shift. You can also journal or, like do voice memos just to get it out of you and then tap into. Everyone's different. Not everyone likes to journal or do anything like that. But yeah, I don't know. I think this topic is definitely something that needed to be addressed because I think there's a lot of it that happens. And I think there's so many people that aren't even aware on a deeper level how much time they're wasting with the thoughts that they're having. So I know in
And
the past, I was so guilty. I mean, I
same.
still am, but I catch it a lot faster. And thank you for sharing your fighting someone with your wiener hanging out story because
it's, it's,
like
it's a real thing. I'm telling you, guys do that. It's weird, but
but
we do it.
it's interesting because how many times if I'm in the shower and I'm home alone, I'm locking the bathroom door because what if somebody breaks in? That's just another barrier that they have to break down. So the fact that you're just like, our biggest fear is somebody's going to break in the house and we're going to have to fight them with our wiener hanging out. That's
It's a horrible thing,
like
but I mean, it's just like it's funny though.
thanks. It is funny. It's not funny, but it is funny.
I mean,
It's,
you're but
yeah.
I guess kind of in closing is that your imagination is the most powerful thing you have, and your imagination is all subconscious. It
Mm.
really is. And the thing I'll say to that is that your mind is a tool or a weapon, because depending on how you use it, it can either be a tool to build up and to create something amazing, the life that you want, or it can be a weapon to absolutely tear you apart on the inside and tear people apart all around you.
Very true. So,
So yeah, and that, all of that, all of that's going to start in the imagination.
mhm.
Nothing happens in, quote unquote reality. Nothing happens that doesn't start out as a thought. Everything starts out as a thought. So yeah,
Good stuff.
it's up to you
Your
how to
your
use it.
brain, yep, your brain will always try to write stories and you get to be the narrator. You get to choose what type of stories and what you want them to look like. So I say make it fun and have fun with it if you allow it. So,
True story.
with that said, thank you so much for spending your precious time with us. We appreciate you. And I invite you to keep being kind to yourself and be kind to others because you genuinely never know what they're truly experiencing on the inside. So be good to yourself, be good to others, and I don't know, spread some love out in the world. Do something nice for someone. And thanks again for tuning in. We appreciate you so much.
Thanks for listening.